I learned how to clean chicken, and I could do it blind over and over, and I'll never do it again. So I appreciate everybody that does that type of work because it got old quick. But anyway, that was my odd job. As a matter of fact, okay, so I did that for a while, and finally one day he let me work the window. I got to work the window. The window was here. This was the top of the window, so I would stick my head through. That was awesome.
It reminds me of the one time I had to clean a pigeon to eat it. Adam, what's the weirdest job you ever had?
The weirdest job I've ever had, I would say collecting carts at a supermarket and wheeling them back and forth all during the New York winter, freezing my butt off, Laura. That was pretty cool.
Wow. Bug, what about you?
But okay, stop right now. Laura, hold up, Laura. Don't bury the lead. Did you say you cleaned a pigeon?
I did, but I didn't get it that clean. Like, there were still some pellets in there. And they're unidentifiable. I'm not sure if they were waste or something that I had put in there myself. Yeah. Anyway. God, that got so weird. That wasn't supposed to be weird. Everyone else
hijack it. I love it.
We'll see you tomorrow on NFL Live.
Bill Flash, Tim Kalishaw, Frank Isola, L. Duncan. Look at this slide from Trey Turner. Woo! From every angle. It's just love at first sight, isn't it? I mean, it's ballet. Yeah. I'd hate to see Trey Turner go, but I don't mind watching him slide away. Oh, let's go.
It's electric. Trey Turner's right where he should be, headed to the World Series.
Easy, Bill Flash. We'll get to that in a second. Yesterday's news that the NFL is going to crack down on taunting. You think this was all about Antoine Winfield Jr. giving the deuces to Tyreek Hill in the Super Bowl? NFL promises more flags and 2 strikes and you're out ejections, and then suspensions are in play for players who taunt. Here's another play the league flagged to be flagged if it happens this season. In the video they sent 2 teams. L. Duncan, around the horn to you. Is the NFL smart to tamp taunting down?
Well, maybe a couple years ago when it was an actual problem. This is so stupid. This is like the government just now saying, you know what, guys, file sharing is a problem and we're really going to crack down on it. 20 years after Napster. You're so late. 3 years ago, there were 20 taunting calls, right? So they decided they were going to crack down and make it an emphasis. And guess what? It worked, because over the last 2 seasons, there have only been 20 penalties called in those 2 seasons combined. They're talking about, well, you're going to be ejected from these games if you get 2. Nobody's had 2 taunting penalties in over 20 years. This was an unnecessary authoritarian flex for absolutely no reason. And it's so weird that a league that would basically acknowledge and ask these teams to have choreographed touchdown celebrations would somehow clutch their pearls because you flex in someone's face. Come on.
And just to be clear here, that Napster reference you made, L. Duncan, that is too old for half of our audience. And the other half of our audience is too old to even get it. Flashy is like, what are you talking about? Bill, let's bring you in here. Go ahead.
Yes, I was like, what are you talking about? But L, the flexing, the bottom line is taunting leads to violent behavior. Baseball believes that they penalize it. Basketball believes that they penalize it. The NFLPA has agreed with this. So the players, far be it from me to say anything, the players themselves want this policed. This is something that could lead to trouble. It's something that could lead to, to more fighting. It's his history proves it. And what happened was in the Super Bowl, it was embarrassing what happened in the Super Bowl. And I think this was the impetus.
So you do think? Okay, I was asking that.
This doesn't mean they're going to call any more taunting plays, but I think it's a smart move to put the players on watch. It's not acceptable. Even the players agree.
Well, I know you want to get back in there and taunt all over Plashke's argument, but first, Tim Kalishaw.
Yeah, I'm going to go with L. Duncan on this one, and I'm just glad her pearl clutching reference wasn't about me for once. We're not saying, Bill, to get rid of the taunting penalty. We're just saying, why do they make an announcement? Why do they say this is going to be a point of emphasis this year? As L said, less than 1 taunting call per week, not per game, per week last year. And they're acting like it's out of control. None of us like players just going nuts, and they should be penalized. But they're acting like we got to stop this epidemic right now. That's crazy.
And Frank Isola.
You know, it's funny. Elle wins a lot on the show. She taunts a lot. That's why she's okay with it. Tim's from Dallas. That's why he's going to taunt. Here's the thing with the NFL. It's a point of emphasis. So they're telling the players this is something in these, wackadoo preseason games that we're going to play. Watch out. Maybe early in the season. The last thing they want is in a playoff game, especially maybe the Super Bowl like we saw last year, a play like that costs a team a game. So they're warning the players, alerting them, watch yourself because we're watching you. I don't think there's anything
You don't
wrong.
think there's anything wrong? You're all right with this. L. Duncan back in.
Again, it's not about the taunting itself. It's about the timing. They weren't doing any what are you talking about? It's like they just wanted to be upset and just wanted to yell, get off my lawn for no reason. And Plashke, you mentioned the other leagues and they have rules too. That's because flopping in soccer is terrible and awful, and so is flopping in NBA. But fans love taunting.
Frank, I'll let you get the last word in here.
Okay, so fans love it. They should allow everything fans love. Players, it's a danger to players. It's a player's safety issue. That's the bottom line. You don't want players fighting back, trying to hit with their heads, all that. That's why baseball does it. That's why basketball does it. Football, good for them.
Frank, last word.
Yeah, and it was one of the last images of the Super Bowl. So I think Elle is right. It doesn't happen that often. Again, they want to keep it out of some of these bigger games.
Everything that happened in the Super Bowl, that's what you remember. Okay, all right.
You showed it. You're the one who showed us the highlight.
I know. I was providing context because people of your ilk have been talking about it. But I want to be clear here. You walked away from that Super Bowl, Tom Brady winning, and then the Chiefs. We're saying, oh, man, yeah, the deuces from Antoine Winfield Jr. Okay.
But the taunting.
We'll move on. Packers can't. This throw from Jordan Love. It's funny how none of us have seen Love in a uniform because he didn't suit up for any game last year, but also at the same time, local TV in Green Bay is showing practices like it's the NFC Championship game. Well, here it is, all right? You know Rodgers won't play this preseason, so we're told to expect heavy play coming from Jordan Love. Tim, what do the Packers need to see from Love? What does Love need to do this preseason?
They need to cross their fingers, and they also need to bring down their expectations because the players that could make Jordan Love look really good, running back Aaron Rodgers, wide receiver Devontae Adams, what are they going to play, a quarter and a half out of 3 games? They're not going to be on the field much. He'll be with second-teamers and maybe even, third-string wide receivers. So just get out there, don't get hurt, look like you know what you're doing, and everybody needs to calm down on the idea he's going to come out and look like, even 60% of Aaron Rodgers.
And, of course, it's Aaron Jones in the backfield, not Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Jones.
Frank Isola, what do you think the Packers want to see from Love, and what do you think is a reasonable expectation?
Yeah, it's incredible, right? You really don't get much intrigue out of these games. But here we have a guy who everyone wants to see play, knowing that unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, is never going to play this season. So Love is in a tough spot because I think it's going to be hard for him to satisfy a lot of people. And if he doesn't play well, if you're Aaron Rodgers, you sit back and say, now you guys really appreciate how great I am because this is the guy they picked to replace me. And look how much he's struggling now in these meaningless preseason games.
Bill, if you could start out from the Packers' perspective here, right? They're of course now in with Rodgers for this year. Now they are. But next year they're thinking maybe it's Love. What do you think they need to see?
They need to see him do anything but what he did in the public scrimmage recently when he mishandled the ball 3 times with 30,000 people watching. He needs to stay upright. He needs to hold on to the ball. Packer executives are going to be holding their breaths. All of football is watching this. This is really intriguing. I can't wait for it. But the Packers, they need just to see him stay upright, hold on to the ball, make a few passes. Like Tim said, he's not playing with much. They just don't need to see him embarrass himself because that would embarrass them.
Nell Duncan.
This kid hasn't played in a year and a half, Plashke. Like, yeah, he mishandled the ball, right? But he also made some really good throws. Listen, this whole situation, I think, is so unfair to Jordan Love, and it has reminded me this entire time of something my mom used to say to us all the time growing up, right? An F up on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. Just because the Packers ruined their relationship with Aaron Rodgers does not mean that Jordan Love is now beholden to some timeline that involves him having to somehow be Peyton Manning in the preseason or, the fate of the franchise is over. Like, y'all stop it. This is absolutely insane to me. To your point, Tim, nobody's going to really play. This is completely unfair. The kid hasn't played in a long time. He's damned if he do and he's damned if he doesn't. Because if he plays really well, we'll all go, it's preseason. And if he doesn't, we'll all go, he sucks.
Plashke, last word after the Horde.
He's only the 3rd quarterback, first-round pick in the last 15 years not to play a game in his first season. So there's a lot of people watching. We got to see
asking him to play is not asking too much, right, El? I mean, you say you feel bad for him. It's his job to play.
It's not. No, it's not asking too much at all. What I'm saying, though, is for us to say the fate of whether they'll feel good about the future of the franchise hinging on the preseason, that's insane, you guys. It's an overreach.
I'm not sure if anybody is exactly saying that, but all right.
I'm sort of saying that.
I was kidding.
Lasky is saying it.
I was kidding.
We'll move on. After their rookie contract.
The Boston Red Sox struggling. Over the last 15 games, their win percentage is .267. Blew another game last night with a little slop and drop. The Rays are just running out ahead now in the AL East. The Jays are coming on strong. The Yankees are there too, but they've got a COVID issue every day and injuries. Frank, Boston's been in the playoff spot for months. Is this a regression to the mean here, though? Are they in danger of losing it?
I want to kick, dirt on their grave, especially since there are so many New England people that work at ESPN. But guess what? They're getting Chris Sale back this weekend, so that's a big-time starting pitcher. Their offense will come around. They're always going to hit at some point. I would be concerned a little bit about the bullpen. Matt Barnes, last 4 games, 7 earned runs. And what worried me about last night, throwing to the wrong base, errors in the field, those are concentration mistakes. I think everything else will come around. That tells me the team is a little down, but Chris Sale returning will change.
Bill Plaschke?
No, Frank. This is who they are. This is not just some anomaly. This is why they didn't make any moves. They needed the bullpen help at the deadline. They needed first base help at the deadline. They didn't make any moves because management knows they don't want to trade any prospects because this is what they are. They're very weak starting pitching. This is not a collapse. They're one of the worst teams in baseball in the last month. And again, This is a regression to the mean. At the beginning of the season, nobody thought they'd do anything anyway. Suddenly everybody's thinking they have a 95 minus run differential to the Toronto Blue Jays, who trail them right now. They're not going to make the playoffs, and nobody should be surprised.
El Duncan.
Ooh.
Yeah, so on Sunday, after they had just wrapped up a 2-8 road trip and lost to the Blue Jays, Alex Cora was asked, is this the worst loss of the season, right? And then yesterday, after they gave up 4 in the 9th to the Rays, he was asked, does it get any lower than this? And it feels like we're just running out of ways to ask Alex Cora how much he hates it here. So I would say that the Red Sox really sort of overachieved early on in the season. They took advantage of Yankees that were banged up and a Rays that were sort of trying to figure out their sequencing a little bit. And they got really, really big performances from just dudes. And that's not an insult, but their bullpen was filled with dudes that they were getting a lot more from than they are now. Now they're just sort of pitching like the guys we all sort of.
So you believe regression to the mean here?
She agrees with me.
I think this is just aggression. I, for once, agree with Plaschke here that they just stayed the same and everyone else in the division.
You've got full Plaschke. Never go full Plaschke, El Duncan. Frank Isola, how about you?
How about me? The Red Sox are who we thought they
let Tim go first. I'll go next.
The Red Sox are who we thought they were. Yeah. It took a while to see, but I was watching all year, even when they're in first. Okay, who's pitching today? Rodriguez with an ERA of 5. Who's pitching tomorrow? Former Ranger bust Martin Perez with an ERA of 5. I don't know how they survived with what they had. And as others have said, Matt Barnes, who was basically a villain in Fenway 2 years ago and had a good first half this year, he's starting to look like that other guy, and they probably need to switch to Adam Ottavino for their closer.
They have been wearing him out. I believe he pitched 4 days in a row. That's asking a lot in August. Frank Isola, last word.
Never discount Chris Sale not being there. It's the same thing with the Mets. Jacob deGrom, the minute he went out, they're losing. Knowing that you have that rock every 5 games is huge for a team in their psyche. Things will change.
Frank just invoked the name of the Mets. Frank, buy or sell Stevens and Boston's offseason.
Yeah, let's not forget hiring Ime Udoka as the head coach as well. Their team is all going to be about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown getting better. But getting Dennis Schroeder for $5.9 million, that's an absolute steal. He's a good player. That ended up being a very good move for them.
So you like the Schroeder move. Duncan, how about you?
Yeah, I think the move is good. He got lucky, right? Like, so did Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka got lucky that Dennis Schroeder turned down that contract, gambled on himself poorly, because then he didn't have to pay Dennis Schroeder $84 million. I don't think it made the Celtics these moves, going back and getting Al Horford, going back and then getting in his candidate. They just feel like they're sort of treading water at this point. So they're good moves, but let's not, like, anoint him as, like, a great GM yet, no?
Okay. Bill Plaschke, how about you?
For the final 3 playoff games for the Lakers last year, Schroeder was a minus 51, including going 0 for 9 in arguably the biggest game of the season. Frank, you said it's a steal. I think he's going to steal from. I don't think it's a steal. I think he's an ordinary player, and I think.
How did every Laker do in that playoff series? The whole team.
Anthony Davis was hurt.
Kalisha.
It's good that Plaschke has found the culprit for why the Lakers didn't win a title last year. Schroeder was a 19-point-a-game scorer 2 years ago. The whole problem with the Celtics last year when guys got hurt is they had no bench. Now they've got a lot of big men. They got 3 potential centers. They got Josh Richardson coming off the bench, Schroeder coming off the bench behind Marcus Smart. I like.
So you guys like these moves? See, when I brought this story up, I thought everybody was down on what the Celtics were doing this offseason. And El brings up the point, don't give Brad Stevens flowers. I didn't think anybody was, but then I saw that Kalisha are, so maybe I got to get the points back. Buy or sell too. Speaking of the Lakers, Plaschke, Russell Westbrook's intro in Los Angeles. Have we ever seen Russ show such a sustained smile? He was beaming yesterday. It was great to see. Everybody wonders how the ball is going to be divided between Russ, LeBron, Davis, Melo, everybody. Bill, does Russ's excitement here make you believe it's going to work?
No, not yet. I was there, and it was cool to see him being sentimental with his family. But I asked him if he has anything to prove, and he didn't say he had to prove he had to win a championship. He didn't say he had to prove he can play with LeBron and AD. And he says he wants to still be his own man and be himself. I'm not sure this is going to work.
Tim Kalisha.
I think it's going to work better than people think in the regular season because a team that old with 8 guys 32 and over, there's guys that are going to get hurt and guys who are going to sit, and Russell plays hard every night. When it comes to the playoff time and his 30% three-point shooting is out there with LeBron, not so much.
Frank?
Oh, Timmy, you're so right. That's why Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk will definitely help the Lakers. But Russell Westbrook, a ball-dominant guard that doesn't shoot threes. So what's going to happen when he's in the game with LeBron James late in the playoff game? I'm not so sure it's going to work.
But to hear him speak so highly of LeBron, of course, El, and to have that smile on it, just being home in Los Angeles, do you think that can turn him into... We saw Melo metamorphosize before our eyes the last couple seasons. Could Russ?
Tony, you're such a romantic. How adorable. He's going to be in the Staples Center, and magically he's going to change everything about the way that he plays. Magically, just like that, it's going to happen. No, I don't know. Listen, I think that Brody can provide the same thing that the producers are literally screaming in our ear right now: pace. Because this was a very slow Lakers team, and he can speed them up. And because of his cutting ability, to Frank's point, he will actually create some easier shots for LeBron and AD, which will hide the fact that they're not a great perimeter.
Little pace can be romantic as well, El. Buy or sell 3, optimism in Indianapolis. Carson Wentz, no boot, no limp. Now we're hearing he could start week 1 after he had surgery a week and a half ago. And same for Quentin Nelson, who's also recovering from surgery. Optimism there. Tim, what are you hearing with this optimism from Indianapolis?
You know, it was always an injury that had a big range of when he could come back. I hope he's back for the opener. I hope we get to see if Frank Reich has the secret sauce when it comes to Carson Wentz, because he had it in Philadelphia a few years ago, and he certainly lost it. We want to see what happens now.
Plaschke.
It's their whole season on the line with this guy. If he doesn't play, they're not making the playoffs. They have to be optimistic, give them their due. We'll see what happens.
Duncan.
I'm seeing a PR team that was like, yo, can we give the fans something to look forward to? Because this target for Carson Wentz is moving. And now yesterday, after Sam Ehlinger gets a couple snaps, now all of a sudden, don't worry, guys, we're not going to have to start the season with either one of these guys. Carson Wentz should be able to come back. It just feels like they don't know.
Sola.
It's great that he's back with Frank Reich. The problem that he hasn't solved yet is that he's injury prone. He hasn't even played a game for them yet, and he's already recovering from an injury. That's the biggest problem with Carson.
Biggest problem with Kalisha and Duncan today? They didn't get to 30. That was what was apparently needed to,
No
to
taunting.
make the showdown in the show.
taunting,
Plaschke, Isola, 30 for 30.